Hello, my name is Adam Comer. I am a pastor now, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of S2L Recovery. Where I am today is light years away from the beginning of this story. I grew up in East Tennessee, in Knoxville. Man, I had the American dream. I didn't have a story that there was a lot of trauma or drama or pain or a lot of the things that I see today lead people to numb it with drugs or alcohol. That just wasn't my story. I had and have two great parents, two brothers, awesome. Had a great experiences coming up. I played sports, had a lot of friends. I was popular, if you say that, in school, in high school, in college. I was pretty well liked by a lot of, you know how in high school they had the different cliques and things like that. You had the jocks and the auto guys and the band or whatever the cliques are. I don't even know if there still is that thing today, but I was really good at being whatever you wanted me to be. So if I was with this group, man, I loved cars. If I was with this group, I loved sports. If I was with this group, I loved music. And so looking back and seeing that, I could tell that, man, there was always this place in my heart that I was needing to fulfill. I needed people to like me. I needed people to accept me. Later on, as I said, I got to college and I had this freedom. Man, I just went wild. I went wild with partying and just whatever the flesh desired, I was doing. And again, I was able to fit in. People liked me. People were drawn to me. But man, college was a real indicator, looking back at my story, that man, I was starting to do a lot of different things, drugs and alcohol, starting to numb things. I was getting high often, thinking that everyone was doing it, right? Or justifying that everyone, man, this is, you know, the fraternity scene, the party scene, everyone's doing this. And then about this time, Hurricane Katrina hit. I moved down to New Orleans to help. I was going with a crew, I was making money, I wasn't like a volunteer, didn't have that kind of heart, I don't want to paint the wrong picture. Man, and I injured myself, and I got introduced to prescription pain medication, and the first time I took an opiate, man, that click, they hit me. That in my head, for some reason I said, hey, that's what you've been missing. And if you look back, that thing that you've been feeling, that void that you've been feeling where you need people to accept you and like you, when I took that first opioid, that feeling was satisfied. And I remember thinking, man, that's what I've been missing my whole life. Man, it was always just a chase for that feeling again. Always just a chase for that feeling. And progressively, it got worse and worse in the aspect of what I would do to get that feeling. I never was prescribed. I never had a doctor look at an injury or prescribe anything like that. It was just always me buying it off the streets, and that got very expensive. And I guess fast forward a little bit, this addiction's going. I'm somewhat able to maintain it. I have a job. My check's gone before the week's over with cash advances and things like that, just to fill this addiction that's rapidly growing. I was able to, or at least I thought I was able to keep it a secret. I moved back from New Orleans, back to my hometown, and I started to pursue my high school sweetheart, which, you know, is truly the only woman that I ever loved. I dated some people, we separated, we broke up in high school. She dated, I dated some people in college, you know, pretty serious things you could say, but the only woman I really ever loved, outside of my mother, who I loved in a romantic way, is my high school sweetheart. And so I started pursuing her, and we started to date again, and she had no idea about these things. She's a pastor's kid. She was very innocent. She believed everything that I said, and so I hid this from her, and she had no idea. I proposed to her. We were at a Tennessee basketball game. I got on the kiss cam, kind of set it all up, and it was an inside thing. We'd had season tickets. She always wanted to be on the kiss cam, so I got us different seats. I had it set up, and I proposed to her on the kiss cam. She said yes. We got married, and man, things began to spiral. The things the amount of drugs I was needing kept increasing, so therefore so was the cost. Man, and I began to do things that, you know, like I said, I grew up with the American dream. I didn't steal. I had parents that instilled values in me and morals and ethics in me. And man, things got dark. I began to steal. I began to do things and go further than I ever thought I would. I was hurting the people that loved me the most. I was stealing from people that loved me the most. Began to do things that would have me in really bad legal situations. And so, you know, what the Bible says, what's in the dark will come into the light. my wife began to feel like that I was having an affair. I never cheated on my wife, I never had an affair on my wife, but in a sense I did. All my attention, all my love, all my focus, everything I thought about was this drug. And so in essence, I did have an affair. I was having an affair with drugs. And so, but she felt like I was having an affair. And then one day she just said, "Adam, are you cheating on me?" And man, that broke my heart. Because like I said, she's the only woman I've ever loved. And I didn't think of it that way, and to think that she felt that way, and she asked me that, and man, that blew me up. So I confessed. I said, "No, I'm not. I have this problem with drugs, and I can't put them down." And so she's like, "Well, just flush them. We'll do this together, and we'll just don't do them anymore, and we'll be fine." And that was her mindset, and so I went along with it. And so, but I couldn't. Anyone battling with addiction knows that I can't. But went to treatment, secular program, 12 steps. Hey, my name's Adam. I'm an addict. The whole time thinking, man, there's something icky about this, saying this, doing. I'm condemning myself forever. They say once you're this, you're always this. But I was playing the game. I was going to the meetings when I got out. My wife was there every single time the doors would be open with the treatment and the couples counseling, and she was so supportive. And man, I was just playing the game, waiting to get out. There was no healing agent that I felt happening. And when I got out, I was going to the meetings every day. I was doing the 90 meetings in 90 days. I was going to these things. And the moment I got out and got back to a little bit of freedom, I was using again. It took a little bit of time before my wife found out or family found out, but anyone who ever knows about a relapse or whatever, they know that, man, you fall harder and faster and further the next time, if you're lucky enough to have a next time. At this point, my wife felt so betrayed because she was so hopeful. She was so engaged in hope. She had so much hope that he's healed, so much fear early on because she helped me hide it. Once she found out, she was ashamed to tell family. So she was kind of living this lie with me. And so, man, all of this hope, it came out, all of this couples counseling, and she had so much hope. And then for me to break her heart again, she was done. She left me. We separated. I was bouncing around on friends' couches that I could until I got kicked out for doing them wrong. And then, nowhere else to stay. My parents, they're both school teachers, or they're both retired. They would allow me to sleep at night, but during the day when they went to school, they would ask me to get out, and they'd lock the door. And I used to be so, like in that moment when you're thinking, I was so frustrated with them. How could you do, it's freezing out here, or it's raining outside, or whatever it may be. How could you lock your own son out? When the reality is, if they didn't, I would steal from them and pawn stuff and take family heirlooms. But you don't think about those things, the reality, when you're in the throes of addiction. And so, man, like I said, I grew up going to church. I knew that this thing over here just felt icky to me, this recovery process over here, that I was labeling myself with this thing and I was doomed, and the best I could do is hope for remission of a lifetime. And so I just Googled it. I didn't know if there was a thing, but I Googled, is there such thing as Christian addiction recovery? And sure enough, this thing called Spring to Life popped up. It was in Middle Tennessee. Again, I was in East Tennessee. I had no idea how I was going to get there or pay for it or whatever it was. But just talking with them on the phone, something was different. God provided a way. I ended up in Middle Tennessee. I remember my mom, as they dropped me off, my wife was still separated, no contact. I was expecting a divorce paper in the mail any day. My mom asked the intake person, "Hey, is there a way we can get updates how he's doing, because he hates us?" My mom said that, and I was high when she said that, right? I was scraped whatever drugs I could get for the car ride, the 3-hour car ride, whatever it was to get here. And I remember her saying, I was like, "I don't hate you. What do you mean? Why would she say that?" And then, just looking back, and maybe this will help some families process things. Man, deep down, for some reason, I did hate them. I didn't process that, and I realized what the reason was. They stopped believing my lies. Think about that. They stopped believing me when I lied to them, and it caused me to lash out and hate them. That's just the addiction. That's not who I am. And so I land here, and the first thing I hear is, "Hey, don't call yourself an addict. That's not who you are. That's not your identity. That's maybe what you did, and that's a reality, and there's consequences to it, but that's not you. And I began to hear these biblical truths, and man, I was still feeling withdrawally. I was still hurting from this stuff, this poison leaving my body, but man, that was hope. That was hope. And hope is such a powerful thing inside of this. If I have hope, then I can look forward just a little bit. I can press through this pain just a little bit. I can know that divorce papers are coming from the only woman I ever loved, and I can press forward a little bit. I want to know more about what this God is saying about me, about what God is saying about who He is. And so I grew stronger and stronger in this faith, in my walk with Christ, and my sanctification. And in this process, every now and then, I'd hate for the mail to be called, because I knew if my name was called, it was going to be divorce papers. And so every time the mail was running, I would cringe. And then one day I got a message saying, "Hey, your wife wants you to call her." I was like, "Oh no, this is going to be some kind of settlement thing. She don't want to go." And I called her, and she said, I've shared my testimony 70 billion times, but God is so good, man. I'm so unworthy of His love. She said that she had been praying, and a woman of her church told her, "What if you give him one more chance?" And God began to restore our marriage. She could tell that I was a new creation. She could tell that this is not the same dude. It came to the end of my time here, and the leadership came to me, and this was 13 years ago. The leadership came to me, and they're like, "Hey, we believe you're called." And I felt called. I felt like, helping people that have gone through this is something that could be good, on the weekends, or, donate an hour of my time a week or something. They're like, "Hey, we're going to ask you to intern. It's a X number of months commitment." I was like, "You know what? I think that would be what God wants me to do." Called my wife and said, "Hey, I'm going to continue this internship, and then I'll be home, but I think there's something there." Sure enough, at the end of the internship, they offered me a full-time job, to which immediately the answer in my flesh was no, but I gave them the church answer. I said, "You know what? Let me pray about it." Call my wife and say, "Hey, they've offered me this job. They said that they're going to pay me $50 a week, but you would need to move here and change your career and everything else." So obviously, babe, Katie, the answer is no. Everything we both know is in Knoxville. Any connections, any leg up is going to be in East Tennessee. On the second day of us praying, my wife's boss comes to her. They don't know, she kept this inside the family. It's not super public. And they say, "Hey, Katie, we've been noticing your work, and we want to offer you a promotion. Or a potential promotion, but we'd need you to move to Middle Tennessee in order to take it." And my wife told me this, and I was like, "Really? Really, God? That's what you're doing?" I know I'm pretty hard-headed, but that's pretty cute. And so, in obedience, she packed up everything, moved here, away from everything she knew. We moved into an apartment, and man, I just began to serve. I began to work for $50 a week. I was driving, the $50 barely covered gas, right? And so, but God continued to provide. And man, I was scrubbing toilets, I was driving vans, I was teaching classes, I was cooking food. I did every single job that you could think of. And man, I could look back and be like, "God, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Like, you've given me certain gifts. I mean, I could be in Knoxville, having a career that could really be providing for my family. God, I could be tithing and building your kingdom in a way that's different than scrubbing this toilet." And as I look back, I can see what He's doing, because everything, I learned every intricate detail about this ministry. I've seen thousands of men come through with thousands of different testimonies and stories. And then there became a time where the founder of S2L chose a different path, chose a different career in construction and things like that. And the board ended up voting me in as the chief executive officer. When I started with S2L, there was 4 of us on staff, me including, so 3 other staff members. Today we have 61 staff members, and God's growing us to multiple campuses. And my wife and I, we pleaded with God for years to have children. We have 2 beautiful children now, getting older, and just the apples of our eye. We have a home. Our marriage is the best it's been. And man, I'm so, you see me get emotional, and it's just because, man, the love of God, I'm not worthy of it, and the only thing that makes me worthy is the cross, because of what He did for me, because I couldn't. There's hope, right? And as I said before, Hope is powerful. And maybe you're feeling hopeless out there. Maybe someone listening is struggling and sees no glimmer of hope, sees no light coming in through the window. Man, if you could hear me, I did nothing special. I just surrendered. And I just said, all right, God, I tried it these ways. I went to this path, and I've lost everything. And in this moment, God crushed me under the weight of my own sin. And I understood, man, I can't, but He can. And I saw the beauty of God in the unhope of a situation. And so I'll tell you the same thing that was told me. Hey, you're not defined by the things that you've done. There could be consequences, will be consequences for them, but it's not who you are. And in spite of all those things that you've done, God saw you in eternity's past and willingly chose to go and pay for that with His own life and torture. He died for you. And He's pleading with you to come to Him, all who are weary and heavy laden, and He promises that He'll give you rest for your soul. And so there's hope, and hold on to that. And allow that hope to grow. Put your yes on the table for the Lord. Dive into His Word. Learn more about who He is. Because if you are in Christ, you are not an addict or an alcoholic. You are a bloodstained child of the King. That's my story.